smokers, ladies and gentlemen, next week in the stock market, it is about to go down, okay? It is going to get crazy next week. I want to explain why. Now, first off, the stock market has been crazy the last few months. Let's say the last 4 months. Basically, around October 1st, the stock market hit an all-time high. It was over 26,000 as far as the Dow goes. NASDAQ, S&P, they all hit all-time highs right around that time. And then from there, it just went down like it was the Titanic, guys. Holy smokers. Next thing you know, the Dow was around 21,000. NASDAQ was in the 6,500 range. S&P 500 had fallen massively. But since then, so essentially right around, after Christmas and essentially as soon as the year started, the market has just been roaring higher and higher. It seems like almost every single day the stock market goes up, all right? And if you look at a gauntlet of stocks out there, you're going to see the same exact thing. Let's look at, NVIDIA, for example, has basically been on a tear the last month. We look at MU, it's the same exact thing. We look at a stock like Shopify, same exact thing. Amazon, exactly the same thing. And we could just go through stock after stock. Netflix is a great example. Netflix had fallen down to like the 250, 260 level. Now it's around almost 340. And we can go through tons of stocks, and it's basically just been roaring and roaring. And this upcoming week is about to be stock market insanity, all right? Let me explain why this is going to be so crazy. So we're going to get a quarter of the S&P 500 companies reporting their earnings next week, guys, all right? Nearly half of the Dow Jones is going to report. 3 of the 4 biggest companies in the entire world are going to report. This is going to be absolutely crazy. So what are some of the big, massive companies reporting next week? Well, one of them is Apple, okay? Apple's going to be reporting their earnings. Now, they already pre-reported some of their numbers already about a month ago, so we have an idea of what some of their numbers are, but needless to say, Apple's still one of the biggest companies in the world, and they affect a ton of companies out there. So it's not just like people that own Apple stock, either indirectly or directly, but it's also the gauntlet of companies that they affect, which is a lot of the semiconductor companies. Almost every semiconductor company you can possibly think about that plays in the mobile game is affected by Apple one way or another. Tons of these companies get a massive amount of their revenue from Apple. So needless to say, like if Apple, reports even worse numbers than were expected or very weak guidance, that could not only hit Apple stock in a very negative way and bring that down, but that will also hit the NASDAQ and bring that down, and that will also hit the semiconductor stocks and probably bring them even lower. However, if things are a little better than what was expected, then Apple should rise, and we should see the semiconductor stocks rise even more. Now, semis have been hot the last few weeks. Like almost every single semiconductor company I own or I track is up at least 10 to 20% in the last 2 weeks alone. It has been just semiconductors has just been on an absolute tear. Now, some people, Morgan Stanley, for instance, they're saying you need to buy Apple before earnings next week because the bad news is already in the stock. Now, the day Apple came out and reported all their negative numbers out there, I basically went ahead and bought some Apple stock on that day. I think I got in at 146 or whatever. You could go back and watch the video if you want. And I'm kind of rooting for Apple to go down, honestly. I'm kind of rooting for Apple to go down, not just because it will bring down Apple stock and I'll get to buy a lot more because like I have $5,000. I would love to build that into like a 5-figure position, but also for the mere fact that that would bring down a ton of the semiconductor stocks, and I still want to buy a lot of those semiconductor stocks much more heavy. And so if Apple, reports better numbers than expected, better guidance, I'm kind of actually rooting against Apple stock, to be honest, even though I'm a direct owner. And although I'm a direct owner of several semiconductor stocks that go into Apple, I want to buy a lot of those stocks heavier, and I would hate to see Apple just roar up more in those semiconductor stocks. So we're going to have to see, but needless to say, that is going to be a big earnings on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, we have 2 massive companies reporting, all right? The first one being my biggest investment as of right now, which is Facebook Corporation, all right? They're going to be reporting earnings on Wednesday. Now, if we look at Facebook as far as what's expected, I'm expecting something around where their expectations are, okay? So analysts are expecting around $2.19. A year ago, they did $1.44. I wouldn't say that's necessarily an easy number to beat, but I wouldn't say it's a super hard number to beat. I would expect them to come in somewhere in line there. As far as revenue growth, they're expected around a 26% revenue growth number. So when I look at Facebook earnings, I'm looking at, I expect Facebook to come somewhere in line there. I don't expect them to smash those earnings, and I don't expect them to miss those earnings big. Like if either one of those happen, like they smash their earnings and they just tear it up and their numbers are way better than expected, or if they just crash and it was like way worse than expected, then honestly, I never saw that coming, because when I look at the numbers, I'm like, they should do somewhere in there, at least what I'm expecting, okay? But that's a massive earnings there. Then also on Wednesday after the bell, we're getting Microsoft earnings, which Microsoft, I believe right now, has the biggest market cap in the entire world as of right now. So we're getting Microsoft and Facebook after the bell on Wednesday, so get ready, guys. It's going to get crazy. Now, if we look what is expected for Microsoft here, right? Microsoft, they're expecting around $1.09. A year ago, they did 96 cents. And then look at next quarter, for instance, 95 cents they did a year ago in EPS, $1.02. If I'm looking at a company that should easily probably kill their earnings, I'm looking at Microsoft here. I'm just very surprised that Microsoft is not expected to do much bigger numbers than this. And their revenue growth, they're expected to have nice double-digit revenue growth this current quarter that they're about to report on Wednesday and for next quarter. And so I'm just looking at this and I'm like, those numbers seem low on the EPS side, very low. I would be surprised if Microsoft did not beat those numbers pretty easily. When I just kind of look at this, I just think analysts probably, sandbagged those numbers a little too much, and maybe Microsoft did as well. I'm just like, I don't see how Microsoft doesn't beat those numbers. I would be worried about Microsoft if they don't beat those numbers very easily, to be completely honest. Microsoft's a very interesting stock, so while all the other stocks were really getting destroyed, Microsoft held up decently well. Now, it did certainly go down with the rest of the market starting in October, all the way, leading up to just past Christmas, but if we look at it, they didn't get hit nearly as hard as some other stocks out there that got hit 20, 30, 40%, and it has roared back pretty nicely. It's not to its all-time high yet of over 115, but it's getting pretty dang close. So as far as Microsoft goes, I would be very, very surprised if they don't just come out and destroy those. I would be worried if I was Microsoft shareholder and literally they don't kill those numbers, because they seem like they should very easily beat those, all right? Then on Thursday, we get Amazing's on reporting earnings, all right? If we didn't have enough of the massive companies already reporting, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, then you get Amazon as well. And my goodness, does Jeff Bezos not look like the Terminator in this photo? He looks like he's about to terminate something, man. Holy smokers. All right, now Amazon, look, you want to see some numbers that are going to be hard to beat? Holy smokers, guys. Look at these EPS numbers they're expected to do. So a year ago, they did around $2.16 of EPS. This current quarter, they're expected to do $5.65. That's about a 2.5 times number there. So if you want to talk about a company that, man, they got their work cut out for them, it's Amazon. As far as revenue growth, only around 19% revenue growth is expected there in the current quarter. So, Amazon historically has usually done 20 to 30+% revenue growth. So not a ton expected on the revenue side, but my goodness, guys, that EPS number, that is going to be a hard one for, Amazon to hit, in my opinion. Something else to pay attention to with Amazon is not just what their overall numbers are, but also to hear anything around Amazon advertising. Basically, Amazon has become like the third biggest advertising company in all the world, only behind Google and Facebook now at this point. Their advertising business has been an absolute growth beast. They're making a ton of profits for that, which is why their EPS is just exploding. Also Amazon Web Services as well. But the Amazon advertising business is what is really exploding for them. So we're gonna have to see what type of numbers do they break out there? What do they have to say around that? But that's honestly what is driving a lot of that earnings per share growth. It's actually not the retail side. The retail side, it kind of drives a lot of the revenue numbers. But as far as the profit numbers, that's actually being pushed up by Amazon advertising right now, all right? So I'm excited about this because this is a huge week for earnings. We got all this massive gauntlet of companies, and I just went through the huge ones that are reporting. Ton more small companies are reporting, like I said, about 25% of the S&P 500. But I'm excited because this is going to get us out of this, U.S.-China, trade war talk, and, the government, obviously, that just came out today that, there's going to be a temporary reopen of the government after the longest shutdown in U.S. history. And I'm excited because we get away from all those little macro things that are going on here in the short term, and we get into, what's actually going on with these companies out there, hearing all these earnings, and we're going to get a good idea of where the actual global economy is at when all these companies report. We saw a lot of pre-guides that came out over the past month that were kind of negative, and we're going to get to see how many companies are really beating their earnings, how many companies have negative commentary about the trade situation, maybe China slowing down, how many companies have to say more positive things and they expect growth in 2019. This is going to be a big week for the stock market as a whole, for investor confidence out there, or if we see a ton of companies miss earnings, especially these big dogs that everybody looks at, right? We see a ton of them miss earnings and have very negative commentary around the global economy. Then we're going to look at a stock market that will probably drop back down to that, let's say on the Dow, like a 22,000 type range, maybe even 21,000. But if, things are copacetic, good commentary out there, we're probably going to roar higher. So we're just going to have to see. But this is going to be a huge week for the stock market. This is what I call earnings insanity, guys. This is the fun stuff. This only happens a few times a year where you get this gauntlet of earnings, just craziness happening, guys. And this upcoming week is going to be one of those weeks. So let me know what companies you guys own that are reporting earnings next week. I would love to hear from you guys. I think around half of the companies I own are reporting earnings next week. So needless to say, it's going to be a big week for my wealth. I'm either going to make a lot of money next week or lose a lot of money. We'll have to see what happens, guys. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this. As always, hit a thumbs up if you did. Thank you for watching and have a great day.